Welcome to Nature Cures with Stacia Alicia, where we explore inspiring stories of natural healing and transformation. I'm your host, Stacia Alicia, and I am so excited to have you here today. Today on Nature Cures with Stacia Alicia, we are joined by Cece, a woman who made a bold decision to take her family's health into her own hands. And the results speak for themselves. In this episode, Cece shares how real food, intentional living, and a mother's intuition helped her and her children to heal naturally. Let's dive in. Hi, Cece.
Hi, Stacia.
Thank you so much again for deciding to share your story with us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what life looked like before your healing journey began?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, so I am from St. Louis, Missouri, originally, now residing in Atlanta, Georgia. And my journey before was there were some roller coasters, health wise as it related to my health. But it was just basically, just I would say some of those normal, viruses that you would just interact with. And then I started having health problems when I was a teenager. But it wasn't until I would say, like in my 40s, I started feeling like I was getting my energy was depleting. And it was like around noon, I would just get really tired. But, it just got to the point where I was like, I need to do something. Even when I started feeling that, I did have an understanding around better wellness. And so I started incorporating various things that I learned into my wellness regimen to assist me with that depleted energy. However, I got into the wellness, just background about me. I started off really with my children. As they were younger, they would experience a lot of health issues. Some of it just common, getting sick, but then it was like those bronchial, like asthmatic kind of symptoms start flaring up. And so I just came into a point in my life where I did a lot of studying, I did a lot of reading, and I started learning more about holistic and natural approaches to take around various health conditions. And I just started incorporating those things with my children first. And it helped. Primarily, one of the biggest changes that we did was to change our diet. And so once we change our lifestyle in terms of the way that we eat, I started seeing a huge transition. Now, it did take a year for me to really see the results of changing that lifestyle. However, it was worth it. And I just will always tell myself that I've been eating this long for so long that it's going to take time. I've been having a not so good diet for much longer than it was of me trying to transition and enter into that transformation lifestyle. So with the children, the diet, I could see the change. While that first year they were still having some, health issues, I did see after a year where the decision was well worth it. They have actually gone so many years now without being sick. And I do equate that to being, changing the lifestyle altogether. But then also because the lifestyle changed, the way of healing changed. So instead of me, with that mindset of that you would always know going to the store, getting over the counter medications for various, maybe just even just a fever or viruses, coughs, and things of that nature, I've been able to turn straight to nature and rely on the herbs and eliminating the food when those type of symptoms arise. So instead of feeling like, oh, you need to eat soup because you're not feeling well, I know this is one of the things that when I was growing up, one of the things in the home that was done. Yeah. And so for me, I just was like, no, after further educating myself, what I do is pretty much just eliminate all foods and allow the body to restore itself with maybe just an exception of some fresh juices and water, staying hydrated, but just really pausing on food altogether, just at least for, a day or two until so the body could start regenerating and restoring itself. So my business, Cece Organics, actually started as a result of me starting in the home first with me and my children, and then me sharing so many things about, the toxic deodorants, the product, just
I
and things.
definitely want to get into all of that, but
Yes,
I really want to delve deeper in there because sometimes, just saying bronchial issues or just saying feeling tired, persons might just say, okay, she's tired, so what? Or yeah, bronchial issues. So I really want to delve deeper into the experience first, the health issues first, and then we go through what you did in detail and then how you started CC Organics. So just going back over what you said that basically you had low energy and also you realized there were seasonal viruses for your children and there were also bronchial issues. Can you describe what you were feeling when your kids were struggling with the viruses and the bronchial issues? And I know you had said as well that they had eczema as well. What were you feeling at the time when that was happening?
well, at the time I had actually I started I started already really just diving into a lot of wellness information. And so it was really perfect timing. Now, they had had these issues prior to me introducing this information to myself, but it was wonderful the fact that I did, because I was able to say, hey, now I can apply what I'm learning and apply it to myself and my children. So at first, I did feel very defeated because I would be taking them to the hospital and it would be no results. So I remember one time I took my youngest one to the hospital, and the doctor was, when they would get these ear infections, the doctor would say, well, now we're going to, because I'm assuming like these doctors have like continuing education or different conferences and seminars. And she's saying that basically she's learning that they don't really know if the ear infection comes from bacteria or it comes from viral. And because I have a background working for a very, very popular health institution, I did know that a virus you don't really treat so much with medication. It really could take its course. Now, if you treat it, you're treating the symptoms. So, for an example, if you're getting a cold, you're treating you're coughing, runny nose. Again, you're treating the symptoms. That's the reason why when you see these medications over the counter, it says, helps with the cough, helps with runny nose. But it's not to say that it's actually going to heal the virus. You see what I'm saying? And they have to be clear in the advertisement. So the medications isn't doing that. It's just basically attempting to treat the symptoms. So as it relates to me, basically, with those type of things, when the doctor said that to me, and I'm going back and forth every couple months of my child having an ear infection, I said, well, how do you know? Because you're writing him a prescription. I said, well, how do you know this?
Yeah.
Because I know for me, I don't want to give my son medication that, as we should know by now, with all of the information that's out here, whatever we take, especially these medications, can affect other parts of our body, things of that nature. And so she said, we don't. She simply said, we don't know. So I said, okay. And I'm like, okay, noted, kept it in the back of my head, took my son home, kept the prescription, but never got it filled. I said, let me see something. I'm about to see something. So I sat on the prescription, never got it filled. The ear infection went away. So needless to say, it was more so viral than it was bacteria. So they're writing the medication because I'm assuming from what, the conversation with the doctor is that they're treating the ear infections because they may be under the understanding that it comes from bacteria and not virus related. So again, I did feel defeated, but as I continued to equip myself with knowledge and started to apply it, and I saw the difference, I was like, this is all I needed was the knowledge, because it's no way I'm going to have it and don't apply it, you see. So at first I was feeling defeated. One of the things that really, oh my gosh, one of the moments I could say where I was really feeling defeated was the breathing, because I remember trying to treat this because the bronchial issues would start with the breathing, but I really didn't want my son being, I would say, dependent on the
Um,
pump that they give them. And so I was like, I really have to get this under control. And I did, through the diet. I feel like the diet is what did it, because after further educating myself, when the body is so filled with so much mucus, you won't have the mucus trapping the airways to where there's not an easy flow, so it's like the coughing and the breathing starts to contract and things of that nature. So it was a real roller coaster, but I was able to identify some herbs as well that helped out with that, some of which actually, I was getting directly from Jamaica. And then changing the diet, changing the
okay.
diet. Yeah. Hmm.
I love that. And we're going to get into all of that in terms of the different herbs and stuff. But I want to ask you now about yourself. What was your experience dealing with low energy and frequent headaches? And how did it affect your daily or day-to-day life and
Yeah, that's a
responsibility?
good question, because it was because I noticed that the low energy started affecting my productivity throughout the day, to where I was like, I have to do something about this. And so, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm too young, like, to be feeling depleted, in my energy. So what I did was I simply started, like, I paid attention first. I paid attention to what I was doing, when I was doing it, and was what I was experiencing. At what point was I experiencing the low energy? And as it relates to my day to day, like, for instance, it really affected my day because about 2 o'clock I was just done. And I'm like, this something is not right. It's only noon, and I was just feeling tired. I would have to really take a nap to finish the rest of my day out. That's how tired I was. And so I just started assessing myself, taking inventory about what I was doing, what I was eating, just my people, places, and things, even energetically, what I was getting myself into, who I
Wow.
was dealing with. Yeah, because people can be draining too. Certain relationships can be very draining as well. And so I just took inventory, but it did affect my energy overall. I didn't really at the time have a lot of health issues at the time, outside of the headaches. So the headaches I was experiencing, I don't know what, I really just equated that to being that I needed a detox, in which I did detox. But I feel like the headache is a symptom of something else, that's of something in the body, right? And so it's not just the headache, but it's not just, oh my gosh, I'm getting a headache, let me go and drink some tea to stop the headache. But it's more so like it's something, because I did know that much, it's something going on in the body that the body is responding to trigger this symptom, to let you know that something needs to be addressed. And so that's pretty much what that was. I did a number of things to correct the energy and the headaches, but it was just affecting my day. Like I would normally have a very high, energy, spirit. I enjoy, laughter and humor. And so knowing that you having a headache, like this, like very frequently, like sometimes every day, it was just like, one thing I don't do is I don't project how I feel on others. So it was really taking a lot out of me to continue to keep my spirit up, so that I'm not imposing what I'm feeling on anybody else. So I'm real big on doing that. You see, now sometimes I'll vent. It's not like I hold everything in, but I was well aware of what I was going through and that it would take some time for me to heal that. Whatever it was, I knew it would take some time for me to heal it. And I didn't want to project it on anyone else, but it did affect me day to day, just energetically and my mood, how I'm normally feeling and interacting with people.
I love how you said that you did an audit basically. You kind of tried to figure out what was the issue. Was it the food? Was it the people I was speaking to? Was it the environment? That's very important because some persons may just focus on one particular thing. Maybe I'm not eating right, but you realize that healing and health is a holistic approach. So there's things in your environment that could be affecting your health and just your energy and how you're feeling. So that's a key point, and I love that you did an audit where that was
Yes.
concerned. Was there a key moment or a defining moment that made you say, this has to change or I have to do something about this right now?
Yes. I was just tired of having headaches and being tired. So those two different issues were at two different times. So when it came to the energy, what I did was I noticed that when I didn't eat, my energy was through the roof.
Mhm.
So, and then I started assessing what foods depleted my energy and what foods gave me life. So that's the reason why it's like for me, it's not about watching someone else. We can learn through people. We can learn through
Mm.
people. But you have to understand and you have to know your body and what works for you. And so while I learned different ways of eating, different styles of eating, whether you are doing more healthier cooked foods, whether you are raw, whether you're this, whether you're that, I basically had to do trial and error to learn what works for me and my body. And I know what works for me is basically just more raw foods than anything. From time to time, I'll do the cooked foods, but I just noticed that the cooked foods, certain ones, would really just deplete my energy. I would start feeling it immediately. So, no sugar, like I can, like sugar is a huge no-no for me, you see. And so I had to get away from the sugar, and anything that created like carbs and things like that. And so that was like the aha moment for me, what made me really buckle down and say I have to do something about it because I paid attention. I was like, I'm not in my 70s, not that you could be, you have some 70-year-olds that's still high in energy, but I'm just saying, I'm not older. I'm still at a, younger age. Something is going on because I know that I was not feeling like this before. And so that's one of the things that I did. And even with the headaches, it's like, how much longer can you deal with a headache? Like some people can't even deal with a headache for 10 minutes. They're popping something. So you talking about like every day? It was like I knew I had to do something.
I know you spoke on it a bit, but I just want to delve deeper into it. What were the first changes you made to your family's diet and lifestyle?
It was the diet. Yeah, it was what I ate.
Can you share some of the things that you did differently with your diet in terms of what you eliminated, what you added?
Yes, absolutely. I eliminated sugar from the diet, carbs, like so I avoid, let me say that I avoid these things
Okay.
because every blue moon I would still come across it. Sugar isn't everything, but
Yeah.
I would avoid it at like maybe at 80-20%. So carbs, sugar, we were already I wasn't eating meat already. So let me say that I was already not eating meat. I was just still eating maybe like seafood, and some chicken. Then I removed the meat altogether and the dairy. So I wasn't eating any meat. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, I'm still experiencing these things, even when I have removed some of the foods that I felt would, increase
Mhm.
my wellness. And so it was as a result of still figuring it out. I just eliminated anything, like they say, anything that was white, and it definitely, like I said, bread, sugar, potatoes, rice, and like pastas. I started eliminating those things, and dairy.
What were some of the toughest habits to break? And I know with children, when you're trying to change their habits, that may be difficult as well. So, what was the toughest habits to break for you and for your children, or what were the habits that were harder to get your children on board with?
The good thing about my children is I caught them at a very young age. Like my youngest one, he's never eaten meat, so
Yeah.
I caught him really early. And then my oldest one, he had eaten like chicken and seafood. You know what? It was not challenging for me to change their diet at home because they were so young that they were still at the age where as long as they get a meal, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I wasn't big on like a lot of junk food and snacks and candy. So it wasn't that type of lifestyle anyway. But I would say one of the most challenging parts that my oldest son had is that when he would go to school,
I
he
was
was,
going to ask you about that peer pressure.
yeah, yeah. So that was one of the things, like, he never expressed it at home that it was an issue, but I just happened to pop up and surprise him at school when he happened to be at lunch at the time. And I was like, I looked down and he had a whole corn dog on his plate. I was like, what is you eating? But I kind of just, said in his ear a little bit with a smile. And we kind of just played it off because I wasn't coming to embarrass him. But that was one of the challenging parts for him, is having to embrace it even in front of his peers.
How old was he at the time?
I do know he was in elementary school, so he may have been in like fourth or fifth grade.
And when you popped up on him, was it that you were suspicious or you thought that that was happening?
No, I just,
No.
at the time they allow us to come, and so I just was stopping by to have lunch with him because I brought some food. So I was feeling the way once I seen him sitting at the table when I was walking to him. I was like, oh no, I didn't catch him before he got his food at lunch. I wanted to be there early enough so we could sit down and have lunch together. And then I saw that and I was like, oh, but yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
How long did it take for you to see like the improvements in your own energy levels and also in the health of your children?
So with my own energy level, I started seeing improvements right away because I noticed that it was whatever I consumed is what was making me tired. So that's when I started realizing what foods work for me and what food doesn't work for me. What foods make me feel more energetic. Like if I'm eating a salad and fruit, I don't get tired. I have more life. I have more energy and vitality. I feel really good. But it was when I would eat like something with sugar or some pasta. It's just like, I don't know if you know that saying, like, when, I know here in the States, when you eat like the soul food, that typical traditional food that's really heavy, they be like, "Oh, you had an itis," because it just
Yeah.
makes you really, you just kind of slumped out
Tired.
and
You want to
tired.
sleep.
Yeah. So that's how I was able to learn the difference, where I would still kind of indulge in those foods and certain things. And then once it was really the sugar where I would, because even like if it was something, a drink with sugar, and I'm like, okay, this is just a drink. This not even food. And I was like, okay, it's the sugar too. I have to eliminate the sugar as well. Yeah, and
All
then
right.
with the
What?
children, it was over a year. It was a year for them.
Okay.
Mm.
So you had touched on the fact that, you change your diet, you incorporated herbs. So now is the time where you get specific, right? What foods or natural remedies made the biggest difference in your life and in your children's life?
With my children, I would make like the best teas all the time. And like some people keep Kool-Aid or juice from the store in their refrigerator, I kept teas made. And I made them so good to where as a children, as long as it had that flavor to it, they were good with it. So I always incorporated herbs in our lifestyle. And then and for me as well, because I had always kind of struggled with low iron. So when I started incorporating more of the like sarsaparilla and chaparral and those type of herbs that's very high in iron and minerals, it really helped me with my energy.
What were some of the teas that you made for your children?
Yeah, I would make them like chamomile, echinacea, even sometimes they would do like sour sap. I just won't make it too strong because sour sap is very powerful, has a lot of medicinal properties to it. But I would do the teas that were mild in taste because again, they're children. So I wouldn't do, I would pay attention to the medicinal properties and what they were for, but also paying attention to make sure it's not one of the bitter, the bitter type of herb that's real pungy, but more of the kind of milder. And then I would just flavor it with maybe just like honey or agave.
That's what I was going to ask. How do you make the tea in terms of, do you actually boil it out or do you pour hot water on the leaves itself?
Well, at the time, I would just put it in a pot, put the herbs in there, and put it on low and just let it slowly extract from the plant. Sometimes if I'm making like a personal, cup of tea, I may put the herbs in there, cover my in the mug, cover it with put hot water in there and just put a top on and let it steep.
On your journey, what did you learn about the connection between food, inflammation, and issues like eczema, respiratory illnesses, and so forth?
So during my journey, I actually came across a lot of documentaries. And I definitely have to give thanks for those documentaries and share how they impact my health journey, because it was one, I think it's called Kryptonite, where when I saw uh, when it was interesting because I had just taken some shrimp out of the freezer to unthaw it. I was gonna make it like a shrimp pasta. After I watched that documentary, I threw that bag of shrimp away. I was like, I am not eating this shrimp. This is the roach of the ocean. So it was like, as I learned, you know, really incorporated. But I have to say that coming across a lot of different documentaries and books, you talk about Layla Africa, Dr. Sabi, obviously some of the great ones out there. As I learned, I just applied, the information, and learned about the different herbs. But I actually went into my own studies. And so while, a lot of here in the West, you have those herbs kind of like, your lavender, your chamomile, your echinacea, those type of herbs. I actually went a little further, and I like to just, when people say that I'm a herbalist, I like to say tropical rainforest herbs, you know. Because if you know anything about herbs, you know, I tell you, all herbs are not created equal, you know, and so I tend to go for more wildcraft and tropical rainforests coming out of like Peru, Jamaica. I think the healing with these herbs are just absolutely amazing. So that's kind of how I got more into the herb part of it, is just through learning and studying, more so I would say Dr. Sabi and Layla Africa is where I kind of started looking more in the herbs. At first, I just had the understanding of what foods we shouldn't eat, but as it relates to the healing, I would just definitely have to give thanks to those elders, for that knowledge.
So now that we're coming to the fact that you started doing your own research, now let's get into how you started your own company because of it, CC Organic.
So CC Organic started because I would be sharing on my platforms on social media and with friends and family, you know, that these products on the market were toxic. But then they're like, well, what should we do? And I was like, well, and I'm like, I make my own, you know, body butter and deodorant. And I was telling them how to make it. But the fact of the matter is, not everybody is looking to do what I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, okay, well, I'm not about to do all that. I just rather go and buy it, you know, because everybody's lifestyle is different. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So while I'm okay with getting my hands in the soil and planting, you know, plants and having a garden and making products, that's not something the next person want to do. And so I started creating them and selling them. That's just how it went. I started creating the deodorants, the body butters, and then I got into more products. And then I started having people say, okay, well, do you have something for skin? Do you have something for this? Do you have some for that? And after studying and studying and learning, I'll be up to 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning studying these herbs and the body and the different makeup of the body and how it functions. And I was like, you know what? Everything is connected. So I, in being transparent, and that's what I have to be in this, because this is my purpose. I came off of the plantation and of over 12 years working for a company. And I remember having a dream. So let me just say this, because this is a very important part that I have to say that started it, to be quite honest. Or to be even more transparent, not just with health issues. I had a dream. I knew that I wanted to come off of working for this company or anybody for that matter. And I said to myself, I was like, I wanted it so bad, but I really hadn't identified a pivot, so what I would do, because I had worked there for so long, well over 10 years. And so I was just kind of tossing back and forth, trying to sleep, but I couldn't doze off and I couldn't sleep. But I finally drift off. And I remember when I did fall asleep, I had I saw this. It looked like the midnight sky with stars. And in the in writing, it said, in white writing, it was black background like the sky. And then in white writing, it said soar with purpose. So I understood that part. That's all that was in the dream, soar with purpose. So when I got up the next morning, I remembered it. And I was glad that I remembered it, because you know, sometimes we don't really remember our dreams. So I was glad that I remembered that. But I'm like, thank you for that. But can you give me what my purpose is? So it was like so what I got from that was, you can leave, you good financially, don't worry about that. But when you do, you have to move in purpose. And I'm telling you, it's so real when you have been given what your purpose is and you don't follow it. Nothing else quite really work out as planned when you keep trying to pivot away from what your purpose is. And so at that time, I was just like, still felt I knew at that time I was being told that it was my responsibility to figure out what my purpose was, basically. But I really wish that I could have, you know what I'm saying, received more clear at the time instructions that that's what it was. So what I had to do was I just simply had to keep journeying in the wellness, and I noticed that that's what it was, because as I kept doing it, everything just started flourishing, flourishing, flourishing. Now I've tried to pivot away from it during that process, because really it was just for me and my children. You see what I'm saying? It was not for me to, it was for me and my children, and then what I would learn I would share with my family, but it wasn't to create a platform for the world. You see what I'm saying? It was just for us, you know.
Yeah.
But again, I was already on social media sharing about the toxic products. People are coming to me saying, well, what do we do? You know, so that's when I was like, well, you already making the products. Why don't you just make them and sell them? So this was before I even came to the supplement. I was just doing, you know, like body products, skin
Okay.
products. And so now going into the supplements, I moved into the supplements because as I continue to educate myself, I cannot send you a skin serum without addressing what you put in your body. So I told one sister, she was like, well, do you have anything for skin? She was like, you know, I keep breaking out. And I was like, well, you know, what is your diet like? What are you drinking? You know, do you drink water? What's your diet like? She was like, well, I don't really drink water. You know, I drink soda. I said, what? Queen, I'm going to just let you know this. I can sell you products all day long, but your skin is not going to clear up if your lifestyle doesn't change. You have to clear your skin up, you know, in terms of what you're eating. So I explained to her that whatever she's eating is just simply coming out in her skin, you know. And I said that will have to be addressed, because I know they have like different serums on the market that they have like acid, like I do feel like there are some people that feel like their skin is being cleared up by some of these products, and we can see that. But what is in the products as well? You know, our skin is absorbing it. The largest organ is in our body, it's in our bloodstream. So, you know, it goes a lot deeper than the product, but as it goes a lot deeper than the
Yeah.
herbs.
It's
I tell people all the
basically from
time, we could continue to take herbs, we could continue to do this, but it definitely has to be a lifestyle change, and that's
yeah.
really where I got it started, where I started my business, CC Organics, because I knew that it had to be deeper than just the product. So I never just really pushed people, you know, like even on my social media, it's more so sharing the lifestyle
Mhm.
versus sharing and pushing products.
Totally
And as an
understand.
example, I did a recent video not long ago about vaginal women with vaginal issues, because I see that the women purchase the vaginal products, but then something said, okay, communicate to the queens why they are having vaginal odor, why they are having continuous vaginal, you know, bacteria and things of that nature. So I'm like, we got to clean up the diet. You know, these are some of the things that you could take, foods you can eat, things you could drink, and eliminate out of your diet to correct that issue for good, not just, you know, temporarily, you know, taking a something for using something for your vaginal area for a temporary fix. If you want long term, you have to go and do the extended work in terms of changing the lifestyle.
What are some of the products, as you mentioned, for vaginal odor, as
Yeah.
in food?
So I have a vaginal soap. I have a vaginal soap. I also have teas for the vaginal area as well.
You mentioned about from the inside out. What are some of the foods you had mentioned that you shared on social media, what they need to be doing lifestyle wise? What are some of the things that women, that the queens, the empresses need to be doing lifestyle wise to get rid of those vaginal issues?
So definitely I would suggest eliminating dairy out of the because out of your diet, because dairy is a lot of it is just pus. You know, when you get to talking about the cheese and the milk and just different dairy products coming from a different animal, all of these things, when you're talking about the estrogen that's being imbalanced, these are the foods that affect the estrogen level. So you're talking about, like, I would say dairy, I would say meat, because hormones are being injected into the animals. And when we're eating this, we don't know steroids and different things. We don't know how it's responding to our body. And so it responds to our body through we see how it responds because we have all these issues going on vaginally. We should be eating more of our berries, more of our fruits, and different vegetables, and a lot of good fresh juices, because juices is going to help to cleanse out that area, but also it's going to help to heal and restore that area. So you have a lot of sisters that have like fibroids, PCOs, and things of that nature. All of it comes as a result of diet and lifestyle as well. So you see now, like, some of this latest information about how perms years ago could have contributed to uh, fibroids. So perms is just a lifestyle. It was because it's a product, a chemical that we're putting in our hair that has affected our endocrine area. And so I would say anything that's white, it's the same thing, as well as dairy. Your potatoes, your bread, because bread, a lot of breads are made with dairy. So your potatoes, your bread, your pasta, and dairy is what I would remove out of my diet if I wanted to clean up my vaginal area. It's just that simple. I wouldn't, and increase more of the natural foods and more life foods. So getting used to the taste of raw foods, I feel like, is really important, instead of saying, okay, well, I've eliminated these foods out of my diet, but I'm doing like green beans and greens and things like that. That's wonderful, because some green foods do have to be and should be cooked in order to consume them. But I would also say get used to those foods that have more life in them, where the cells aren't, if the cells are still intact, all of the nutrients is still in the food and things of that nature, so that it can start to fuel the body more, and the cells of the body to restore itself. So incorporating more raw foods is going to help to restore the body and the vaginal area, is what I would say. So even if we're still eating cooked foods, I'm always like an 80-20. More raw salads, more fruits, and matter of fact, very little cooked foods, because when you get to talking about the cooked foods, then you have to get to addressing the oils that's used to cook the foods. And these oils are very unhealthy because they turn into a chemical which can create cancer. I mean, we could kind of go on and on about it. It's a lot of wonderful people out here that's in the work as well that goes in depth about that information. But I would definitely remove the dairy and the carbs out of the diet, and
And
sugar,
sugar.
definitely
Thank you
sugar.
for that. You mentioned that one of the products that you do in CC Organics is deodorants, and you said that you used to share on social media how people can make their own deodorants as well. Are you able to share, like, with somebody who wants to try and make their deodorants at home, what they can do instead of using the antiperspirants that are causing all sorts of illnesses and diseases?
Yes, I can. It's really, as I've learned, it's really not even, it's not at this point. Once you create a lifestyle, you really don't you really find that it's really not that difficult. So this is an example. Arrowroot. It stops with the perspiration. But I would just use, like, and this might be different for some people, but I use lime under my arms. I put lime under my arms, and I even do it with my children. And if you use lime under your arms, I know that might not be ideal for some people, but I'm just saying that's what I use under my arms. And so, or you could do arrowroot as well, because arrowroot keeps you dry. So when I was making the deodorants, that's what I would do. I would do like the arrowroot and an essential oil if I just wanted a scent to go with it. But I could take the arrowroot powder and put it under there. Like, I don't know if you remember, like, years ago when people would put powder in the baby's pamper. You could do the same thing with the arrowroot because it keeps you dry. Now, I hadn't gotten to the point where I was actually making, like, I know it's a big thing, like clear deodorant and things like, I never made that. I used the arrowroot for the deodorant, which was the base of the deodorant. So I know, when you get to talking about like the powder, because it's white and it might show. I hadn't gotten that far with a formula in terms of a clear deodorant, but today I just simply use arrowroot, or sometimes I'll just do the lime. So
Lime.
I'll just
Yeah.
change. And I have actually found that when the diet is clean, the lifestyle is clean, the eating is clean, you don't even need as much. So I've noticed that when my lifestyle and my eating habits are clean, I can do line for a couple days being consistent, and then I can go a few days without even doing it because
Mm.
I don't smell. I'm not, and it's healthy to sweat. So we don't want to stop the pores from sweating. You know what I'm saying? Because it's simply releasing from the body, and that's what we want. So I'm never, wanting to do anything like that. But that's the reason why I just say keeping it simple. You could do lime if that's not something when you and we could talk about the recipes and things like that, but really it all goes back to the lifestyle of changing the lifestyle, because you won't have to, like, some people say, oh, those natural deodorants don't work for me, and that's probably true, because the lifestyle, it has to change. It has to change, because if I give out a recipe, somebody could say the same thing. You know what I'm saying? If the diet doesn't change. So, that's why I said, even with the herbal supplements, it's much deeper. That's kind of what I was saying
Mm.
about the skin. Like, I could give you all of these skin products, but if the lifestyle doesn't change, then it may not work.
Mm. So it's healing from within,
It has to be
basically.
within.
Yeah.
That's the reason why when I was sharing with you about the sister, I didn't even feel right just saying, okay, well, here's something for your skin, or here's some. I started with the question, well, what are you eating? Well, what is your diet like? And I know that could be a odd question, and when she just needs a skin product, but that's really what it is. So
I love that. What would you recommend for oral health naturally?
I'm gonna go back. Now, the reason why I have to continue to say the same thing, and I may sound repetitive, and the only reason why I sound repetitive is because everything that I'm sharing is a result of my journey. So I noticed that when I wasn't eating certain foods, that I wouldn't have oral issues. So you eating meat that sits up in your teeth, that can stores in your gums, that start to create bacteria. And all of these other foods with all of these different chemicals and these ingredients that's in the foods, that's caking up in the up in the gums, that creates bacteria in the mouth and tooth issues and things of that nature. So I've noticed that when your lifestyle changes in terms of, like, like I said, leaning more towards nature for your food and your meals, you're not going to have as many oral issues. And I've learned this through others that's on the same journey as well. Now, after you get through eating, like after I get through eating, I may drink some water, I'll swish it around in my mouth immediately after I get through eating, right? Brush your teeth, just the norm in terms of oral health. I do floss. I'm very particular about the floss that I use, because some of these, like those sticks that they have, you don't want to push the food up in your gums. You see, so it's just it's just a way that we really have to pay attention to some of this, even to some of the things that's on the market. But I really believe in just having, like, you could take some water, uh, put some essential oil in there, just a couple drops if you just want something in terms of mint. But you could do even like some olive leaf tea and swish it around, good for bacteria and things of that nature, fungus, that's or uh, any tooth issues and swish it around in your teeth. Any herb that's good for bacteria, and you bought, just like you was making a tea, I would just make it like a tea, swish it around in my mouth and release it. That'll be good. And then just constant, brushing your teeth. That's what I do. But after I get through eating, if I'm not brushing my teeth right away, if I'm not in a position to brush my teeth, I would just swish water around in my mouth so that nothing starts to get stored in my mouth.
Okay. Is there a particular toothpaste that you use to brush your teeth?
I do. I have a natural toothpaste. It's on the market, but they have different ones.
Okay.
I'm not particular. I don't know the brand of it. I could go and get it though and show it to you.
No,
You use this one?
but the neem, not the moringa, the neem.
You use the leaves?
Neem, Neem, neem.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like if I want to make a mouthwash and really, address anything, I'll just make a mouthwash. Another what I've shared too on my social medias is like when you have any kind of discomfort in your tooth, instead of getting like the Omeral, or I think it's Ambisol from the store, you could just simply put a couple cloves in your mouth, hold it wherever the pain is, and it goes away.
Ooh,
That's what I
wow.
do. So I keep cloves around. That's another one that you can make like a tea. Swish it in your mouth at least 2 or 3 times a day if you're having any discomfort. And when I tell you, it will take that pain away. So I always make sure I keep a container of cloves.
Thank you so much for that. All
You're
right.
welcome.
What are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about children's health and nutrition?
Um, I would say one of the misconceptions is that people think that, oh, because they're just a child, they can have this. I remember being in a store. This was a while back. My son picked up a piece of candy or chocolate or something and was asking for it, just like any other child. And I was like, no, let's look at the sugar, because I teach them how to read. I said, look at. I don't just, when I teach them, I don't want to just say no without educating them. You see what I'm saying, of why I'm
Yeah.
making this decision. And I said, look at all the sugar. And there was a lady that heard me tell tell him that. And she was like, oh, he's young. He could take it. They have plenty, as if like they have time to eat this stuff, like he's just young. He could have that. It won't harm him. And I'm like, no, I just play. I was like, no, he definitely don't need no sugar. Because at the end of the day, like, you don't want to start that lifestyle, because then it's hard to break it once you get older. Like,
Yeah.
start them off right now with a healthier lifestyle. That way, that's what they know. And as a parent, you did your best. So I feel like that's one of the misconceptions, is that just because they are a child, they're high in energy, that these foods won't harm them in any kind of way. And then as it relates to nutrition, one of the misconceptions of nutrition is that all of these fad diets and quick remedies are will heal you. I've noticed that, for instance, they had this fad going on. It was this trend, rather, about the apple cider vinegar. And so I was like, telling people, please don't take that. Now, I've used apple cider vinegar to stop fevers. I would take a cloth when my children were young. I would take a cloth, put it in the apple cider vinegar, and put it on the back of their neck. I would put onions on the back of their feet, with socks, and to stop their fever, because I didn't do over the counter. But these quick shots will heal you. This remedy, so much. This diet, this keto, and it's so much of this marketing that's buying for our attention for wellness. You see what I'm saying? When you could just simply juice, take herbs periodically for minerals, and healing, and eat healthy. It doesn't have to be, and I'm real big on fasting as well. I like to say that I actually, that was one of the steps that I took in terms of healing myself. I did a 21-day juice fast. And so that's one of the, it was supposed to be 30, but for some reason I stopped at 20. And it's so interesting that a lot of people that I've come across their story, they say the same thing. They're like, oh, I was supposed to do 30, but I stopped at 21 days. But that particular cleanse for me was so fulfilling. Like you could literally, you could feel your body restoring itself when you fast. And so those are some of the things that we could do in terms of healing our body versus always trying to find a quick fix. Because it didn't, as I said earlier in the conversation, we've been doing our body wrong for so long, some of us, you see. So why would you want something quick? Be patient, take your time. Just as long as it took you to damage it, you need to be understanding and give yourself grace and be patient in healing it. So all of these are money grabs. You see what I'm saying? They're just money grabs. All of these diets, keto food, this is so much. It's so much. It's so much. Even the shots in the store that's $3 and $4, when you can make a whole picture of this, it's just all a money grab. And it's just always trying to pull you in and sell you something, you see. And this is the thing that they start to rear up at the beginning of the year when everybody want to have a beach body. It's so much, when if you just change the lifestyle, that won't even have to be an issue of how you're going to look come the next summer. So I would say that's what I would say the misconception is, that people have about nutrition and children's health.
Did your healing and wellness journey change the way in which you approached parenting and your community?
It did. As it relates to parenting and my community, I have more patience and grace. I understand that it's a lot going on with people on so many levels, physical, emotional, mental, people are going through things, you see. And so that's one of the, for instance, like when I learned about the dyes and the different colors and how the blue and the green and the red food dyes are not healthy and how they affect the central nervous system. You give these children this candy and they either lashing out or they're crying, or it's so that it's so much going on in the body and in the mind and just even in people mental health, state. I've learned to give people more grace and understanding. And as it relates to my children, it's like they always, my oldest child, he's 18. If he needs to detox, he just detox on his own now. He doesn't, I actually work with my 12-year-old with his, but my oldest one, he's clear. He doesn't want any breakfast. He'll tell me, do you want something to eat? No. Mm-mm. And when I say breakfast for us is like juices and fruit, but it's times where he don't want anything. And he's like, I'm detoxing. And I'm like, yes, I did it. I did it. And now I'm working on my youngest one. So, but every year when school is out, we do a cleanse for a week. Me and my youngest one, because I don't have to work with the oldest one. And so I give people grace and understanding. When I first got into this, I was a little bit more aggressive with it because it was a little frustrating that people didn't see what I saw. So, but then I quickly learned that that's not the approach for them to see it either. And so, I say my piece and then I just let that, be that, because in learning wellness, I also learn various things about soul level, spirit, just being here, our existence and our level of consciousness. Everybody is journeying on their own and in their time and in their divine time. And so that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? So that's one of the things. I'll say my part, and then just to put a little bug in their ear, and then that's it.
Yeah, you just plant the seed and that's it.
Yeah, because it's like I sit there sometimes and I listen and I'm like, should I say something? Is this appropriate? But I something tells me I have to. So I just keep it real, and I say it and I give them the information and put it out there, and I let that be. But I get so many people saying that they've learned, they've changed, they have. So I say that's all that I want to hear, is that what I had to share helped somebody. Somebody is health is being better based it on. So people are learning through me, people are learning through you. You have a wonderful platform. I noticed when
Thank
I went
you.
to your page the other day, I was already following you, already subscribed to your channel on YouTube. Yeah.
Thank
I came
you.
across your work, I want to say maybe like a year or two ago. And so when you reached out to me, I was like, oh, wow, I know her. Or not know her, but, I was familiar with your work. Yeah.
Thank
Because
you
I think
so
you were
much.
doing a journey. I don't know. I
Yes, I
forgot
was
when I
on a
first
tunnel.
came across your I don't know if you were doing more raw. I'm not
Yes,
sure
yes,
what.
I was in a raw vegan challenge.
That's
Yes,
what
I
it
was.
was. I think
Yes.
that's when I came across it and I had subscribed to it. I was like, because I was gonna go ahead and subscribe. I was like, oh, I'm already subscribed. But when you came through the message and reached out, I already knew who you were.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, what advice would you give to other moms who may feel overwhelmed or stuck on their journey?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I would just say, take your time, take your time. This is Don't rush it based on the various information that you hear, or but I would say to take their health and their journey serious, and to be patient with themselves, because when we're not patient, we could easily refer back. We have to understand, and this is what I've been saying through the conversation, it's going to take time. You see, it takes time. Now, while some things that I was able to stop doing altogether, I woke up the next day, did it, and never looked back. Some things that was not the case. It was more challenging for me to let go. So being patient in the process, um, making sure that what they learn, they teach their children too. A lot of times what I see is, the parents are more into their health, but they're not with the children.
Mm,
But I would challenge them to actually do it together. That way, you're not having to cook separate meals or shop differently for you and your child. Make your child's health just as much as a priority. That way, you're not creating their diabetes or facilitating in their high blood pressure and those type of things. So I would definitely encourage mothers and all parents and fathers to make sure that we're choosing the best snacks for our children. Give them a clean off some blueberries and set it in their lap. They actually might like it. So let them snack healthy, and introduce some fruits they may not like. Introduce them. I'm so thankful to have like an international market where I live at, because we've tasted fruits and have fruits from all over. But just be patient, and because we learn through so many wonderful and intelligent wellness gurus, understand that at the end of the day, this is your journey. And while you can learn different things, you have to really listen to your body to learn what works best for you. Because, like I said, there's so many that feel like, a lot of more cooked, healthier foods is what worked for them. While I'm on the other side saying, well, less cooked food for me, more raw foods is what really worked for me. However, you do what works for you, learn your body. Just like they say, medical practice, you getting practice on through somebody else So you might as well practice on yourself and
Practice
see
on
what
yourself.
works for you.
That's a good one. You might as well practice on yourself. You speak about lifestyle a lot, right? So take us through your day. What does a typical day or routine look like for you? Take us through when you wake up to when you go to bed.
Absolutely. So when I wake, I'm going straight to the kitchen because I have a regimen of lemon water. And if I'm taking a tonic at the time, I'll take my tonic.
And
So
about what time is that when you wake up?
I wake up about 7. Yeah, I wake up about 7 in the morning. And so I go and do my lemon water. And then I'll do my tonic. Now I'm not on tonic all the time because again, this is like medicine, you know. Herbs is just not herbs, it's medicine. So I'm always putting minerals into my body, and but I'll pause on the herbs because you don't really have to be on the herbs like this when your lifestyle is healthy. And when I say lifestyle, I really do mean what you eat as well, because I don't particularly enjoy using the word diet because of the word diet is in it. So, lifestyle, when I say that, it's more so all aspects of it. To set my tone, I'm getting up, I'm taking my lemon water, I'm taking my tonic. From there, I'll get my children together and then I'm working out. So, my workout just simply consists of a walk, you know. So I'll do maybe 10,000 steps a day, or 4 miles, you know, I'll walk, but I'm not eating anything until like 3 o'clock. Food is not the first thing that's on my mind when I wake up. It's nourishment. What's going to nourish my body today? So if it's on the weekend, it could be like some tunes, you know, opening up my blinds. I have to have my blinds open. The sun has to come in my window. So that's part of when I'm warming my water up for my warm lemon water, I'm opening up my blinds, or I'm doing that before I get there. I'll typically eat maybe around 3. Lately, I've just been doing maybe a smoothie, a salad. I just finished doing a all water and tea for a couple of days, and then I incorporated next after that juices, water and teas. And so when I eat at 3, I stop my meals about 5 or 6. And then I don't start back up until 3 the next day.
Okay, what does a typical meal look like for you?
I'll do like fruits, vegetables, and then every once in a while I have like some cooked food, maybe a cooked vegetable, chickpea, but I don't eat a lot of cooked food.
Do you like incorporate your kids into like the food prep and the exercising? You
Yes. So when my son had the bronchial issues, a lady that I was speaking with, a good friend of mine, she said that when she used to have asthma, she used to do a lot of jogging that helped her. She feel like a lot of running is what helped her lungs strengthen. And so I take my children out for walks with me pretty frequently. And whenever I cook, like I just made a nice pot. That's another thing, vegetable soup. I made a nice pot of vegetable soup. And so my children are used to helping me out. Like my youngest son, he's like, Mom, let me know if you need anything cut up, anything except the onions. And I was like, okay, I'll let you know. So they used to help, and now he don't want to deal with the onions, but that's fine. But yes, they do help out with the food, and I've taught them reading labels, looking at the sugar content on everything, and yep, vegetables, just different. They're used to it because they've been doing it for so long now. So I incorporate them into everything as I was learning. That's why I said early on, I would teach them. And the reason why I really started teaching them is because I noticed, because I was learning some other things too about just our culture and history. I started noticing that when my oldest son would have conversations with people, he would always say, well, my mom said. And so early on, when I noticed he would do that, I was like, okay, I'm about to let you read for yourself. So you don't have to say that mom said. here, right here. You see this book, you see this documentary, you see this article, all of these different tools and resources that we go to for different areas of knowledge, and even paying attention to your body so that he can learn to source his own information. You see?
Ooh, I
Yeah.
love that.
And that's what he
Yeah.
did, and he still do it. Like even here in the States, when it came to, I'm not big on like politics, but when it was so much about the different sides, he went and studied himself. And he's like, look, mom, they say this, this, and this, but this, and this. So one of the things that I enjoy it that, and I say, go, don't listen to me. I tell even like people I work with their wellness, and even if I in locally, if I'm giving you a product, I want you to research all of those herbs. But that's the reason why, like a lot of my products, I stop like packaging them all together because I want you to put your own ashe energy over your herbs and tea. You see what I'm saying? Like be a
Mm.
part of that process, not just saying, oh, I have this and this is gonna. You put your hands on them herbs instead of me, because I used to create the tonics and say, now you get all the herbs in the bag, create, you make your tonic. You, here's the herbs. I want you to put them in the pot. I want you to put that water on. Now I want you to bless it. You know, I want you to bless that pot of herbs and oh, with your own energy over your teas.
Mm.
So yeah, the children, they are very, you know, they're a part of all the process. Yeah.
Love that. Thank you so much. We're going to move into another segment. This is the rapid fire round where I ask you some questions quickly and you respond as quickly as you can. So, all
Okay.
right, let's go. One food your kids love that's also super healing.
Watermelon,
A healing habit you swear by as a mom.
lemon water,
One thing you removed from your home that made a huge difference.
junk food, foods that don't have any nutritional value.
Roots and remedies. If you could share one go-to natural remedy that every parent should know about, what would it be?
Eliminating people, places, and things that are not for your wellness.
The Nature Cures Healing Challenge. If you could challenge our listeners or viewers to one healing habit that they should do with their family this week, what would it be?
I would say everybody sit down and eat a large salad.
All right.
Just eat a large leafy green salad. And you know, that's just simply what, because you'd be surprised that when the last time some people have actually had a salad. So just sit down and eat a really good, healthy salad together. That's what I would say.
What's one song or mantra that kept you grounded or supported you on your healing journey?
Ooh, self love, self care. That was actually like a slogan in my business. It was like self love, self care. Like in order for you to incorporate everything that I share, you share, and everyone else, there has to be a level of self love in it, and take responsibility for caring for yourself. So self love, self care would definitely be the one that I go by.
Love that. So, self love, self care. If you were to prepare a starter pack for someone, for a family that's beginning their health and wellness, their healing journey, what would you put in it? The CC starter pack.
I will put lemon, spring water, watermelon, oranges, leafy greens. I would do sarsaparilla, yellow dock, burdock root, and some sprouted plants.
Is there any books or tools or resources that you would
I
add
would
to that starter pack?
I would put the Muculus Diet in there. That would be a book I would include in there, and Layla Africa. Definitely the Muculus Diet.
Oh, the mucusless diet?
Yeah, it's Muculus. diet. And basically, the book is teaching us how to less mucus. So it's not to say there's no mucus in the food in our body, but less mucus. Kind of going back to what I was saying about how the airway of one that has those asthmatic uh triggers, and then they go to the doctor and then they do the mass and butyrol, all of that is mucus that's coming out, right? But it's trapped in the airway. Even the doctors will show you the diagram between the ear, nose, and throat where the mucus is sitting there and in the canal and it can't move. So mucus diet. And so there in the book, it does say different foods that is high in mucus, mediocre mucus, and less mucus forming foods. So definitely that one. Layla Africa is a good one. Seat of the Soul is a good one. I would include that one in there as well. Those are ones that I keep dear to me.
So the mucusless that African Holistic Health by Layla Africa and the seedless, what you said about the seed?
Seat of the Soul.
The seed of the soul. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
thank you so
Seat, SEAT.
thank you so much. The final question,
You're
what
welcome. Thank
does
you.
what does healing mean to you?
Healing means a body free of toxicity, physical and mental, giving physical and mental vitality. So it's not just physically what we eat in our lifestyle, it's our environment, it's what we indulge in, healthy relationships, healthy music, podcasts, those type of things. So healing for me is an overall feeding our mental state and our physical state with vitality.
Oh, I love that. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Cece, for just sharing your story with us, for sharing your information, your knowledge with us, your
Mhm.
wisdom. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it. And I know that the audience will get many gems from this conversation that we just had. Thanks again for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. We'll stay tuned and stay connected. Thank you.
Blessed love.
Cece's story is such a powerful reminder that mothers are often the first healers in the home. To our listeners and viewers, I hope that this episode inspired you as much as it inspired me. Remember, healing is a journey, not a destination, and every small step you take counts. You can watch more episodes of Nature Cures with Stacia Alicia on Amazon Audible, Spotify, and YouTube Music. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this story. If you're watching on YouTube, please check out the description section for links and to stay connected with me on social media. Until next time, take care of yourself and remember, nature cures. Blessed love.